If I had a nickel for every time the writers of Ben 10 wrote a storyline into the show that did end up working but not as they intended, I'd have more than 5 nickels. Which isn't a lot, but it's weird it's happened so often. The Rooters. Actually among my favorite villain groups in the series, given they indeed are ultra effective as a villain group. They almost successfully got Ben killed if it weren't for Kevin. No other villain group in the series got as close, and the Forever Knights just get consistently washed. However, I do have an issue with the specific reason for their existence, as does 99% of the fandom, to be fair. And that's because they specifically exist to retcon Kevin's lore out of fucking nowhere. Thing is, I am not upset because the retcon doesn't make sense. I am upset because the Rooters existing makes sense, but not as a retcon. Their existence gives very interesting lore to how the Plumbers function, and especially Plumber's sentiment towards Ben. Like, sure, the Earth Garrison likes him kinda, they are perpetually on his side for obvious reasons, but the same cannot be said for the rest of the organization. We know there's corruption in their ranks. It wouldn't shock me if the idea to figure out a way to murder Ben has just been a plan that they've had for a while, as it'd be very bad for the Plumbers Union if Ben 10 suddenly decided, hey, you know what? I don't like what the Plumbers are doing. I gotta stop them. In response to them doing something, fucky. After all, you're gonna tell me that the Magistrata never knew? That she just trusted Cervantes implicitly and never once asked him what exactly he was doing in the Null Void? That the Rooters were given all these resources, what I assume is unlimited funding, that the Rooters, except Phil, underwent mutation experiments to be turned into half-alien hybrids, and the Magistrata never once questioned what they were doing? And you may be saying, Cervantes could have just wiped her mind too. Yet, I don't actually believe he would. Not only would that open him to actual charges because that mean he assaulted his superior and the highest rank in the Plumbers organization, but I actually believe he'd be fully aware it'd be a wasted effort that he could just put into swaying the Magistrata into backing his plan to kill Ben Tennyson if he ever showed himself to be a threat, in quotation marks, to not just the universe, but the Plumbers specifically. After all, the mission statement of the Plumbers is to safeguard and promote the public well-being throughout the galaxy. And in the little that we have seen of the Magistrata, it is clear she is cold and calculating and will do anything that it takes to not only follow that mission statement, regardless of how vague it is, and I sincerely assume the vagueness is intentional, but also safeguard the Plumber's reputation. And that's a funny tidbit, by the way. Why lie? Why hide the Rooters' terrible acts? Why make yourselves only accountable to yourselves and say that no one must know of what occurred? Why not hold the Rooters legally accountable? It's almost like the idea that the Rooters were an experiment in cultural sensitivity was just a lie that the Magistrata already had planned, because if it turned out that the Rooters failed to kill Ben, and it somehow was leaked to the public that a Black Ops branch of the Plumbers attempted to assassinate the wielder of the Omnitrix in an apparent betrayal, it would look fucking horrible for the Plumbers' reputation, and they need that reputation for the Plumbers Union to even remain together. So, the Rooters were disbanded and banished, with the Magistrata now having the way clear to completely hide what happened with no repercussions. And talking about lies, by the way. You are all aware Cervantes cannot be trusted, right? On anything, not even the Amalgam Kids and Arjet's so-called true memories can be trusted, because Cervantes, as a master manipulator with the ability to literally alter and block off the memories of people on a whim into being whatever he wants, could have just made Kevin, Arjet, and the Amalgam Kids believe that all the memories they regained from his power are their true memories. Sure, I won't deny them having been Rooters is the truth, but everything else can be held deeply in doubt because there literally is no in-universe proof to the memories they regained being true, except Cervantes' word. You understand what that means, right? Let me say it again. In-universe, There is no proof that anything besides Cervantes kidnapping the Amalgam kids Kevin and Arjit and brainwashing them to use them to kill Ben is true. The only verifiable thing is them being rooters because Ben remembers them having tried to kill him since his memories were not altered, but everything else only has Cervantes' word as proof. But since he's a master manipulator, it must be assumed that without proof, everything that comes out of his mouth is a lie. And I know what all of you will immediately jump to thinking, but what about Kevin's dad? As I said, no proof whatsoever that he never existed. It is only implied by Kevin and Cervantes and Phil that Cervantes messed with Max's mind to implant false memories. But remember, Cervantes can make Kevin remember anything he wants, so we literally cannot trust 90% of what Kevin says in the Rooters arc. And Phil will do anything, say anything to fuck with Max, even if it isn't true. In reality, it was Max whom fully assumed his mind was also fucked with, seemingly having lost his nerve to the Rooters' eternal gaslighting and falling right into Cervantes' trap. Because I want you all to answer me this. If Max's memories of Devin are fake, if Kevin's memories of Devin are fake, does that mean Kevin's mom's memories are also fake? Does that mean Ragnarok's memories of killing Devin Levin are fake? Yeah, remember that guy? If Devin Levin never existed, then who the fuck did Ragnarok kill? Did Kevin kill the man for nothing? This is what I mean when I say the Rooters arc works, but not as a retcon. Obviously, it doesn't work as a retcon even if the intent was for it to be one. It is clear the writers focused more on the story of the episodes themselves instead of making what was being said in those episodes fit with the rest of canon in the way that they wanted. But that doesn't mean that the Rooters arc is suddenly bad. Completely on the contrary. Because the concept of not being able to trust your own reality, of doubting everything you know, even down to who you are as a person and even who are the people that matter to you, questioning if some of them even existed at all, is a great premise. On top of that, questioning the morality of a law enforcement organization that on the outside presents itself as the paragons of moral virtue, when in reality they have a closet filled with skeletons that they specifically keep in that closet, else their control over the people of the union they supposedly protect dwindles, makes it even better. Anyhow, yeah, if you ever believed Cervantes once while watching these episodes, you are more naive than Season 1 Rook. Case closed. Also, I will reiterate for the 100,000th time, rest in peace to Derek J. Wyatt, but none of what came out of his mouth is canon to me, and I don't care if it is canon to you. It certainly was a choice to not explain Ragnarok's involvement in the actual show, and instead just say, you had the idea to make him a rooter years after the episode aired. So, out of all of the stupid shit that could be brought up in the comments, don't bring this shit up. I know, I just do not care. Saying that they had the idea to incorporate Ragnarok doesn't immediately make it canon. Stop sucking the dick of the concept of Word of God, especially when it is nonsensical to the actual show. It's not a good look.